There is so much stuff to find and fight against in God of War Ragnarok that just the side content could be a whole game by itself. And there's even more secrets it doesn't outright tell you, but rather you have to find them on your own. That's why today we're gonna take a look at even more secrets, encounters, and lots more, so let's jump right in. Now, right from the very start, you should make a habit to destroy any Raven of Odin that you might come across. Not only is this a return challenge from God of War 2018, but it's also much more rewarding this time around on top of providing an achievement. That's because once you get to travel to Niflheim, you'll get access to the Raven tree with the 6 golden chests right in front of it. And with the more ravens you destroy, the more of these chests will unlock and give you some really awesome gear. For example, you only need to destroy 18 ravens to already get access to the first 3 chests in that event. So basically, you already get a full armor set, which comes in the form of the Raven Tears armor set, granting you some big bonuses towards healing. The chest piece in particular has a small chance to get you healed whenever you hit enemies, but the waist and the hands are definitely better for the healing efficacy bonus. So this is going to provide you an extra 30% heal for any source that heals you, like health stones, rage, and gear, which makes it a perfect combination early on or in case you can't survive against large groups of enemies. From that point on, every 10 more ravens will provide you with access to the remaining 3 chests, so this includes at 28, 38, and finally 48. But if you're still here in Niflheim, then there's a second tip that I have for you, which lets you quickly max out all of your skill labors and get the respective mod tokens. This is done through the sparring arena that you find in the same area on the left side of the entrance. This will not give you the XP nor hex silver for defeating enemies, so just keep that in mind, but it will progress your tiers with the skills that you use. So I definitely recommend setting it up with the first challenge against the Draugr, since they can be easier to defeat compared to some of the other more annoying enemies. And this is also going to let you spam your skills easier so that you can unlock the gold tier for them. And you should see all of the skill labors popping off on the right side of the screen in no time, but the biggest advantage is the fact that in this trial you simply cannot die, you are technically immortal, and it seems that your HP cannot be lowered anything below 1. Plus, all of the cooldown on runic attacks are way lower than the usual, which makes it a perfect spot to train or test any new abilities that you might have acquired in case you want to see exactly how they work like. But speaking of acquiring stuff, every now and then Brock and Sindri will get even more craftable items as you progress through the main story and level up with Kratos. Like at first you only get a few options, but then many more armor sets and item pieces, even enchantments, will open up for various reasons. So if you find yourself stuck with anything or missing that piece that might just make your build complete, always go ahead, pay them a visit again, as there's bound to be something for you new there to craft or upgrade and get your build going. Also, on the subject of upgrading, don't repeat my mistake and overlook the fact that runic attacks can be upgraded too. For some reason I thought mine wasn't available yet, as the game kind of makes you accustomed with the idea that all upgrading is handled by the workshop, but not in the case of the runic powers. It's actually done right from the character screen. And just like in the case of the skill tree, it only costs the XP that you get for that character, so you don't need to worry about wasting it on anything else. Though I will still plan ahead and suggest you do the same depending on how much damage, status, or stun you want from these types of attacks. You might even be surprised just how much one level can change an ability despite some powers looking weaker at first. Anyway, let's talk about one of my favorite realms in 2018, Muspelheim, the realm of challenge, and once more it makes an appearance in God of War Ragnarok, though fully unlocking it takes a bit until like the second half of the main story. So trying to avoid all spoilers here, but for the most part unlocking this realm requires 2 seeds that luckily come from open world chests. The first seed comes super early in your first visit in Svartalfheim, specifically in the same area as one of the mining rig operations or side quest just southwest of the watchtower right here. It's pretty hard to miss as the golden chest is quite visible, and it's also on the same path that brings you to the end of this side quest, so you really cannot miss it. But the second one is found much later after the story brings you back to this realm through a side quest called Spirit of Rebellion. So you have to take part in this side quest chests, go into a certain location with a special kind of new tool that you might have just unlocked, and once you're there, you will be able to get it from inside of one of these chests after blowing it up. And once that is done, Muspelheim is opened up, including its challenges, and I recommend you go ahead and jump in them even early on, specifically because they give you some really awesome rewards. The trials are pretty much similar to how they were back in 2018, like you still have the ones where you have to not get hit by any of the enemies or defeat them in certain ways, or if they have like super high regeneration, but it should be easy to take them down. And you also get this really awesome Undying Pyre's armor set that I think is perfect for the new permafrost and emulation mechanics. It basically kind of like gives you a much better regen rate on the permafrost and emulation so that you can generate and fill the gauge even faster. And the chest piece also gives you a shield that on the first hit doesn't reset the gauge, so that you can continue using the permafrost, emulation, or building it up. At number 5, Realm Rifts are back, and probably in higher numbers and more challenging than ever. There's about 15 of them in total, spanning over all 9 realms, and you can easily spot them by their distinctive blue-whitish outglow. This time around, they are called Yggdrasil Rifts, and they start spawning after progressing to a certain story mission in Vanaheim. But just like in the first game, they give you a bonus encounter against enemies that are more challenging than most other encounters out there, even when only playing on the balanced mode. Usually the challenge will require patience, skill, and probably a decent build, but they are needed if you want the superior crafting mats, if you want to upgrade items or craft some of the endgame stuff. This also includes the Asgard Steel, but there's also like the Dust of Realms that's making a return from 2018. Now, if you struggle with any of these, then you should probably know your companion is now stronger than ever and actually more useful, specifically because of the new sonic arrows. There's a hefty amount of passive perks in there to make these arrows so much better, especially when it comes to building the stun meter on the target. If you make a habit of spamming the square whenever you're doing your high damage combos, then you can kind of do it at the same time and build that stagger meter even faster. Really hard to explain, but if you got used to the first game, you can probably do it just as well in this one too. And it's so easy to overwhelm bosses even on some of the higher challenges later down the line. At number 7, it's undeniable that GoW Ragnarok is filled with secrets and things to collect, but sometimes they are so well hidden it might not be that easy to find them. Luckily, Sony Santa Monica added so many accessibility features, it's pretty crazy, and the two best you can turn on right now during exploration is the target and interact color, and just set them to whatever color pops off for you the most. This will make anything there is to interact in the environments be way more noticeable against the background, to the point that it almost feels a bit like cheating, but it's so worth it. I thought I finished things before, only to realize that I skipped or missed so many things after like turning these settings on and going back to the same locations. My recommendation, just keep this on when you're concentrated on just exploration, maybe even after finishing the main story, so you can better see exactly what's around you and where you can go up next. And this brings us to number 8, the final one. The game reintroduces the Valkyrie challenges from 2018, except this time around, instead of fighting against actual Valkyries, you get different bosses of the Norse lore. There's like 12 of these cursed bosses all around the 9 realms, and right now they are by far my favorite encounters. They only open up a bit later in the main story, mind you, but by that time you should have enough for a decent build to get you going and survive some of these challenges, because don't get me wrong, they can definitely be difficult, especially if you miss even a parry or a simple dodge. You can basically get combo one-shotted right away if you're not paying attention, but when you're pulling it off properly, especially with the parry windows, it's so satisfying. Of course, you will get downed again and again, repeatedly, but there is a learning curve, and once you get accustomed with the way they fight, it's easy to like just get used to all others in there. Even though technically speaking, all of these bosses are very unique, they have different attack patterns and they behave a lot different from each other. The loot they drop is also some of the best, with some great armor pieces, weapon attachments, even enchantments that can drop as you defeat more and more, on top of the stuff that you get at the end of this cycle. But this is pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.